Welcome to the PRpose podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Myden. Today we have Dr. Richard Brown in studio, and we are talking all about the purpose in navigating your journey through plastic surgery, debunking all the myths, understanding all the things that you need to know so that you can make an informed decision when you're ready to move forward with a procedure. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the PRpose podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Myden. We are here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I am so excited to have my guest in studio today. We have Dr. Richard Brown, who just authored a book that we'll get to in a little bit. But I just want to first thank everybody for tuning in every week. As you know, the show is all about purpose in PR, media, and life. And today we're actually going to pivot the media and PR conversation a little bit and focus more on the purpose in the journey. So welcome, Dr. Brown.
Thank you.
So excited to have you.
And you can totally call me Ricky.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Ricky, he looks like such a Ricky, right? People say to me, you look like such a Nicole, but you do. You look like a Ricky.
I'm Ricky. People are like, do you really go by Ricky? I'm like, that's my name.
I love it. So in fortuitous alignment, because of course, you know, we talk about mindset, universe, spirituality on the show, all these things. We met in such a fortuitous way, which to me always meant that we were supposed to meet, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, through some mutual friends, colleagues, and kind of shout outs on connecting on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of people told me about the book when it was coming out. I was asking for help, and your name was the one that came up, and I was like, all right, I'll totally do that. And then when I met one of your friends, Matt, I've known her for 17 years. So it's just, the world is set up in a way that just brings good people together.
I love it. Well, today we are going to dive into mindset around kind of the connection with mind, body, and soul. I think that a lot of the listeners out there, while we are all on a journey of entrepreneurship or self-discovery or talking about PR a lot of times, getting that kind of connection and lateral connection is so important. And I know you deal with this all the time when you talk to your patients. So before we get to the book, before we get into kind of all those things, I want to first start by you sharing with everybody how you came to be sitting here today in Scottsdale as a doctor.
Oh, man, it is such a long story.
We'll do the brief version.
I'll do the brief version. Yeah. I'll go way back. I'll go way back a little bit too. I grew up in Macon, Georgia. Was where I was born. Small town Georgia, and then
we have listeners in Georgia.
Do you?
Yeah.
I love it. Well, then we moved to Atlanta when I was 12. Grew up in Atlanta. Ended up going to college at Syracuse for my first 2 years. And I was going to go into, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was not a great student growing up. I was actually in learning disability classes, reading comprehension. I kind of grew up in that mindset, like I just struggled in school. And so I ended up going to Syracuse. And when I was at Syracuse, I had gotten into the School of Communications, whatever that means, right? I mean, now I know.
That was the school I was in.
It's kind of what we're doing now, right? So spent a couple of years at Syracuse and realized very fast that 200 inches of snow per year was probably not what the Georgia boy needed. So I transferred back to the University of Georgia. And when I was there, my parents have a company or had a company. They've been retired for a really long time, but selling computers to medical practices. So I'd kind of been around medicine, but never, I think because of the way I grew up with the reading comprehension issues and those things, I never thought of myself as I could be a doctor or I'm going to be a lawyer or a profession like that. Not that that's important, but I think the mindset, when we're talking about mindset, I wasn't there. So when I was at Georgia, I decided to take some pre-business classes, just thinking, well, I guess I'll just go work for my parents, like take over the company, right?
Sure.
So in the middle of studying economics one night in the library, I was like, man, supply and demand curves, this sucks. I'm like, this is so boring. And I would always kind of been like a science-minded guy. Yeah. So I took some science classes and did really well and got A's without really working that hard. So then I basically started to sort of figure out like, all right, maybe I'm not going into business. Like maybe I'm going to do something in the sciences. So literally my senior year of college, I sort of mapped out the whole path to becoming a doctor. After volunteering in the hospital and making that connection with patients, I would transport patients from ultrasound back to their room, just a patient transporter. I started to build these relationships and I realized like, I think my passion is going to be somewhere in healthcare. Long story short, I decided to go to med school after being told that I couldn't do it because of my grades and all that stuff. I got in. So I get into medical school, end up in Chicago, I lived in Chicago for 10 years. So I did my
Such a
med
great
school
city.
training there. Such a great city.
Yeah.
I mean,
Love
I
it
could
there.
not live in that weather for the rest of my life, but
No.
being there for 10 years was for sure an awesome experience, the culture.
Such good people.
Yeah, really good people. So I ended up deciding, I knew the year before I went to med school, I worked in an operating room just cleaning ORs, just mopping floors and wiping down tables. And that's where I sort of grew my passion for surgery. I just found myself watching operations and being like, this is really cool stuff. So as I moved through med school, I honed in on surgery. So I ended up doing my general surgery residency in Chicago.
Okay.
And in the middle of all of that, some of the plastic surgery residents would come visit. I was at a level 1 trauma center at Mount Sinai Hospital. And they were like, you should think about plastic surgery. It's a really interesting field. It's diverse. You could do a lot of cool things. And then I started to see reconstructive work in my trauma patients. And so I went into the lab at Northwestern for a year and did some research on scarring and wound healing. And while I was there, I was like, you know what? I think I want to be a plastic surgeon. So I finished my general surgery training and took my boards, and then ended up going to do plastic surgery training in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. They're crazy about their football.
Wow, you've been all over. I love it.
So I finished that training and then moved here 10 years ago to start my practice.
I mean, and to go from Syracuse and Syracuse and Chicago to this weather, I mean,
Yeah.
you've designed a life.
Different ball game. No, I knew I wanted to live somewhere warm. My wife went to NAU for dental
Okay.
hygiene school, so she had a little bit of a connection here. So I was like, let's go check Arizona out.
I love that. But what I pick up on most in that story, and I know you obviously outside of this, so I've heard the story, but for the listeners to grasp, you had kind of in your own mind at the time deemed yourself not either capable or worthy of even allowing yourself to think of what would life be like if I went to med school.
Yeah.
But it was through, ironically, work, kind of doing the business school work and figuring out, right? It's kind of, I guess what I'm getting at is you were so divinely guided, probably at the time without even realizing it, to this work.
For sure. I mean, coming into medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I always had a connection with people. I like people. I like taking care of people. I like helping people. And I think just the whole medical thing, just from interacting in the hospital setting, it just sort of happened to me. And I you know, people have their aha moment. And for me, it was like, okay, this is like where I don't know what it's going to be, but this is like what I need to be doing.
That you went for it.
Yeah.
Which I love. And you are truly like, I'm around a lot of friendly people. You're one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Thank you.
Really, like I love it. It's like contagious energy, which is so good. And that's so refreshing also because I think, you know, especially for people that go to doctors, you want to feel so safe and comfortable with people that, you know, you're trusting, not only with your life, but to have these kind of conversations. So, okay, so you get out to Arizona about 10 years ago. Okay, and start.
Yeah, so I found a guy who was a year from retirement. And he basically said, I'm looking for someone to take care of my patients when I retire. Like legitimately, this is not a joke. I'm retiring in a
Best
year.
scenario ever.
Right? Because most plastic surgery, young plastic surgeons that come out kind of get eaten by the older people. Like they promise them all this stuff and I'll bring it in and then it never happens. So I legitimately sort of had this office sharing scenario with this man, Dr. Haidt, Glenn Haidt. Rest his soul. He passed away last year. But he gave me my start. And he basically said, listen, I am going to bring you in and we're going to just kind of figure it out. I'm going to help you get busy. And hopefully eventually as you're busy enough, I'm going to fade away, you're out. And whatever you want to keep in the office, you keep it and I'm out. And that's exactly what happened.
I mean, like a guardian angel.
And I mean, look, this was 2009 when it was rough. Like the economy was rough.
Was rough.
I mean, I came out in probably one of the toughest times and basically hung a shingle.
Yeah. But you're doing amazing and you're obviously a tried and true expert and very well known here in town. You know, for people that are enlisting, you're based here. So are a lot of the customers and clients you're working with, both men and women, are they mostly based here or are people flying in?
You know, we do get a lot of out-of-town guests.
Yeah.
Most of the people I take care of are obviously here because that's who finds you. But I will say in the past 3 to 4 years, I've had a lot of out-of-town people starting to come to find me, which is really cool. And I think social media helps with that.
Sure.
And so it's always flattering when someone travels miles, 200
amazing
miles to come have
see
you do it.
I love that. What I love about what your mission, though, really is all about is that you are a doctor, first and foremost. You're a physician. You are a surgeon, and you do plastic surgery, as we know. That is something we will talk about today and something you are known for. But I love this connection, and we've talked about this, of more of talking about mindset with your patients and understanding more optimal health and connecting the mind, body, and soul. Because especially coming from LA, I can say this. I mean, I feel like I was living in a city where it's like, everybody was having surgery all the time. And if you didn't, it was like you were looked down upon. If there was so much pressure. And to step away from that city and move here, it's not that it doesn't go on here, but I can see from my own self-awareness development that when you start to really love on yourself and think about these reasons of why would I want to do the surgeries, or could I actually do some of these things on my own before putting myself through that, right? So these kind of conversations, I imagine, are coming up with a lot of your clients as well.
Yeah, everyone's just hopefully trying to live the best version of themselves, right? And so while some people look down on something like a cosmetic procedure or even a reconstructive procedure, I reconstruct women after breast cancer, people are just trying to feel like their best selves. And so if that means tweaking a little something that you're unable to do in the gym or you haven't been able to accomplish by other means.
Boy, do we all need some tweaks.
We can do the tweaking.
I got a list of tweaks.
We can tweak. So I really do, look, everything that we do in this world is about feeling our best and being the best version of ourselves. And if taking a mom who has basically had deflated breasts after having children and breastfed and looking in the mirror and feeling like she just doesn't feel like she has what she once had, not that her breasts define her, but from simply wearing clothing and how that makes you feel, putting on a pretty dress and feeling like you look how you want to look. You do a breast augmentation that takes an hour and it changes and transforms their lives. And you and I both know that when you change the physical, it carries into every aspect of your life, your mindset, your children, your relationships, and everything that you do.
What's the confidence, right?
Totally.
And we all sit and we talk about inner work, and we can do all the inner work, but how we feel about how we're presenting ourselves outwardly is just as important. It is.
It is.
It's
huge.
Yeah. So, I've shared this with you. I for sure could not have been a surgeon. It's not in my DNA, but I know that for you, what seems gory or kind of intimidating for a lot of us is really like what a passion and not only purpose for you, but it's the fact that you can help people the way you do is remarkable, but you've also got the stomach for it.
Yeah, it's not easy. Look, you and I, we had an email conversation about this the other day, and I think what I sort of told you was that it's so strange to me, not that everyone should be able to look at it, but I don't see it that way. I don't see the blood. I don't see the incisions. I see in my brain the beauty of what I'm trying to create for that person. And I guess in a way it is very artistic. I've never seen myself as an artist or thought of myself as an artist, but I just get lost in the procedure that I'm doing and what I'm trying to create for that person, that the gore of it, it just doesn't even...
It's secondary.
Secondary.
What an honor and what a responsibility to heal people in the way you do. You are. It is a big responsibility. And with that, I want to actually segue into this board certification topic because, you shed a lot of light on this in the little bit we've talked also just about how many people are out there, and we're not here. The show is all about positivity, so we're not going to shed any negative light on anyone in particular, but the reality is there are doctors out there and there are people out there claiming to have certain credentials, and they're doing massive operations and surgeries on people.
They are.
And then, somebody goes through a horrible experience. They get what we call quote unquote botched, right? And then oftentimes could land in your office to want to correct those things because they didn't have the right information to do the research properly on the surgeon. So let's talk about board certification and what that really means to educate also the listeners.
Yeah, I would love that because I think this is such a huge deal today, especially with Instagram and how easy it is to fake with social media. It's really important that the public understands that while all board certified plastic surgeons aren't good surgeons, at least they have gone through the credentialing process and been deemed by our peers through a strenuous 2-day oral examination and a written examination to have the knowledge to do what it takes to be a board certified plastic surgeon. So let's shed a little light on how would someone make a decision, and this is something I talk about in the book. So in America, in the United States of America, we have the American Board of Medical Specialties, and that is the grandfather entity that says this cardiology board can certify cardiologists.
Yep.
This plastic surgery board can certify plastic surgeons. This family medicine board can certify family medicine. So they govern who they say is qualified to certify doctors in America.
Yep.
There is only one single board that is recognized by the American Board of Medical Specialties to certify plastic and reconstructive surgeons, and that is the American Board of Plastic Surgery. So oftentimes what happens is someone may creep into an office because they saw a website and say, oh, he or she is a cosmetic surgeon. So cool. I love your results. This is so great. Are you board certified? Yeah, I'm board certified. And the conversation ends there. And what they forget to ask, and this is probably the most important question that you have to ask, because if they answer it, they're lying, right? So if you say to them, great, you're board certified. Are you board certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgery? And they can't tell you, then they're not board certified plastic surgeons.
Need to run from the office.
Well, yeah, they could be an ENT, or even I've seen dentists, and I've seen OBGYNs doing tummy tucks. And again, you mentioned, I'm not calling people out, but what I'm telling you is, while those people may be great surgeons and do what they do well, then go get certified the right way. Go back through the process. If you truly have a love for what you're doing, go get certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgery. And so the problem is people get duped in when they hear cosmetic surgeon, and they then say, oh, I'm board certified, but the doctor can't, if they don't utter back to you, yes, I am board certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgery, they're not a board certified plastic surgeon in this country.
And I think it's safe to say most people would not know to ask that, because of course we're going to go into a doctor's office and trust that what they're saying is accurate, right?
Absolutely.
And so to ask that piece of that question is so important for everyone to understand. I'm so glad that you're shedding light on this, because I think most people just, we wouldn't have the awareness to know.
Yeah,
right?
It's so hugely important.
And also, okay, so then having that conversation first and foremost is super important, but a lot of other things that you dive into in the book. And what I love about this book is that you make it very it's less intimidating, right? Because I think emotionally, physically, financially, there's all these things that go into preparing for, a surgery. And so for you to break it down in the way you do, you're almost giving somebody years and years of insider tips and tricks and a really easy to follow guide.
Absolutely.
That's getting them more educated on the questions to ask, like you said, thinking about things financially, emotionally, how to share this with friends and family, all those things. Why are all these things important?
The book basically, the birth of this book was I got so fed up at what we were talking about with the whole botch thing and people getting messed up. And I'm like, there's nothing out there for people to read from beginning to end that they could say, okay, look, I want to go have X procedure. Where do I even start? And so now if someone picks up this book and they read in part one of the book about board certification, they understand that. They also can read about, I talk about talking to your spouse about wanting to have a procedure, which is so hugely important, because how do you even approach that? Because I see predominantly women. I do take care of men, but when I see women, sometimes they'll come in the office and they'll say, I don't want my husband to know I'm here. I just like, I don't think, or I do see women who come into the office with their husbands and they'll look at their husbands and say, well, what do you want?
Oh.
And I don't like that. So the book is there to sort of stimulate those topics so that when you do decide to do this, or if you decide to do it, that you're equipped with the knowledge to talk to your kids about wanting having surgery. How do I finance having surgery? How do I even pick a surgeon, and how do I go down that route? And the book just basically walks people through from beginning to end. Like I talk about post-surgery blues, like post-surgery depression, which is a huge thing that no one talks about.
Right? So, and let's talk about that, because I think that I would imagine most people go into something like this and you think, okay, I'm going to get through the day of, right?
Yep.
And then maybe there's a couple of days after of recovery, but there are long-term, like, of course, like you're still processing what your body just went through emotionally and physically, right? It could go on for months, I'm sure.
Yep. Well, let's face it, moms rule the world, right?
Yes, they
Women
do.
rule the world.
Hey.
You guys have the hard job. I'm a very engaged father, but
Yes.
but a mother, it's just different. You have this innate feeling of responsibility for taking care of the household and your children. And so what I see clearly a lot, and I post about this on Instagram every now and then, is you have a mom coming in who's just needing to do something for herself. She's had 1, 2, or 3 children, or maybe not even had children, but I'm just playing the mom scenario.
Sure.
So they come in to have a procedure, they have their surgery, and lo and behold, after surgery, there are restrictions. You can't do any heavy lifting for 6 weeks. You can't do any strenuous exercise for things we can get into later.
Yes.
So what happens is mom all of a sudden can't pick up her 11-month-old.
Right.
Or you can't prepare their meals, or there's things that you can't do that you normally may do every day. And so
or
then
just general energy is not
there, and you start thinking and things start creeping into your mind. Why did I do this? I'm so selfish. Why my family needs me? And so they sort of start to dive into this post-surgery. I don't want to call it depression because I really feel like it's the blues, because by 6 weeks when they're able to do more, they kind of snap out of it.
Yeah.
But no one would ever think to talk about that. And
Right.
so if someone picks this book up and reads about that, now maybe they say, like one of my patients did, I'm going to freeze a bunch of lunches before I have surgery so that I can just thaw them out and give them to my kids.
I love that.
I'm going to get my sister set up to maybe pick the kids up from school in the afternoon for me so I don't have to stress about that. They start to plan for this post-surgery process that now they can just focus on recovering and actually appreciating and enjoying that what they're doing for themselves is okay.
I love that. I love that.
Super important.
Yeah, because who thinks of all the time after, right? And I think that by taking those steps, like you said, and involving family and friends to help plan, that's the part almost that I think a lot of people forget probably when they do procedures is to celebrate.
Yep.
This was meant to be a good thing to make us feel better, right? And why not allow ourselves to honor that space?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's talk about, for all the entrepreneurs out there too, because we have a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs that listen to this show. Writing a book is not easy. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. You are an amazing family man. You run you've got a thriving business. You've got all kinds of things going on in your day. For all the people out there listening that probably want to write a book, can we shed some light for them on like what the reality of putting this together was like for you?
Yeah, man, you just write it and it's done. No.
There you go.
So it is a lot of intentional work. Look, when you become passionate about anything in life, you make it happen. For me, my brain moves 100 miles an hour. I have so many things on my mind that I want to do. And the book was one of them. So what happens to me is I wake up a lot at 4 a.m. and I can't go back to sleep.
Bless your heart.
And I work out early. That's how I start my day at 6. I have to do that. So for me, once I crafted the idea of the table of contents, and I had a book company help me with some of this, obviously. Advantage Media, I'll tell you, Advantage Publishing.
Yeah.
So they helped me craft the table of contents. And once that happened, I just started making content. And then after we started making content, I would send the chapter off to let them edit it and send it back to me. And it just kind of went back and forth. So I fortunately had a little bit of financial ability to have a company help me write the book, which a lot of people don't.
Yes.
But if you don't have that situation, what I would tell people is you just got to start putting your thoughts down on paper, right?
Yes.
I literally pretended that I was having a consultation with myself, and what is everything that I would want to tell me if I was going to have a procedure. And then I just started crafting what I say to people every single day of my life. And I just put down on paper what I want people to know.
I love that. And we talk about that a lot on the show. It's one of the reasons I have the show. It's one of the reasons I started the workshops. It's a beautiful thing when people get to a place in their life where they start to teach what they know, right?
Yeah.
And really use all these years of wisdom and expertise to educate.
So
right?
important.
It's what we're all here to do, I think, at the end of the day. I love that. I know, look, starting a podcast, writing a book, all these things, they can feel so overwhelming and intimidating. But on that, I love, when you hear all your breadth of work and your career path and everything you've done, you seem to be somebody that just moves. Like you just go, you get stuff done, you're thriving, you're vibrant, you've got what seems to be a really wonderful life, right?
Yeah. But let's, I mean, all joking aside,
Yeah.
it did not happen overnight.
So yeah, let's talk about that.
And I think it's important for the listeners to understand that I struggle just like they do. I am the same individual that walks the planet the way they walk the planet. We all have dreams and things that we want to do, and my follow through has not always been great. And I have done a lot of work mentally on myself. We've talked about this the past year and a half or so to come full circle to even, believe it or not, until about a year and a half ago, I didn't believe in myself that I could build the concept in my practice of what I'm trying to do. I know that I'm a good surgeon. I know that I have good bedside manner and I bring good quality service to my patients. But the looking around at other medical practices in town and comparing myself to them and being like, I don't think I could do what they're doing, it took a lot of work. And really, I think I flipped that switch about a year ago when I was listening to another podcast that really helped me with my mindset, saying to myself, no, turn off those voices that are telling you you're not good enough. Turn off the voices that we all have. The most successful billionaires in the world have the mindset sometimes of a voice in their head telling them they can't do something. And I think what's changed for me and put me on such a path, I think, towards ultimate success for what I want to do is being able to turn those voices off and go, you know what? I have something really awesome to offer people, and I'm and I believe in myself, and I believe that I am different than a lot of other surgeons in town in the way that I have that ability to communicate and deliver that. And so I've just started to believe in myself in the past year and a half that, okay, I'm doing some big things. It's going to happen, and now I feel unstoppable.
Unstoppable.
I hope.
Just like the bobblehead.
That's right.
I love that.
We had to bring Mr. Bobblehead.
I need to have a bobblehead made of me.
You do.
That is the coolest. Like, I think everybody needs a bobblehead.
I got this. They gave this. You can see he doesn't have a beard because I didn't have one in residency. That was our residency graduation gift. They gave us a bobblehead amongst other things, but that was one of them.
That is so cool. I love that. Everyone should have that on their desk.
Totally.
So, okay, everything you said, yes, right. We're all human, of course, but you know, you're living your life in a way where, and we talk about this a lot on the show, we just talked about it with a guest yesterday, I think the root for everybody is to get to a place of the self-awareness to understand that even when we're not having the best days and when shitty days happen and when we're not always feeling our best or life just happens, that we learn how to work through things in a healthier way so we're not severely thrown off course like maybe at one point we would have been, right? What are things, you mentioned getting up early and working out every day, but I think as good takeaways also for our listeners, what are some things that are like non-negotiables in your routine or some of your habits that you think keep you in that mindset?
Yeah, so for me, one of the non-negotiables for me and my wife is fitness.
Yes.
I thrive on working out. I'm not a gym rat. I CrossFit. It's not a bad word, guys. It's CrossFit. It's okay to CrossFit. You can
Why does that become a bad word?
You know, people hear CrossFit and it's synonymous with injury.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, so you're the same guy that sits on a couch on Sunday and watch football players bang their heads in and get concussions, and you're sitting on the couch telling me that CrossFit is dangerous. So it just, I think what happens is
relative.
It's intense, right? So people failed to police themselves early on, and there was a lot of injury. But I think we're past that, and people understand that it's something that you can get through without injuring yourself. So for me, that starting my morning that way and having a routine where I get up at 5, I go downstairs, I stretch in total darkness for about 45 minutes on my own. It's my moment to sort of just reset my mind, get ready for the day. Then I go to the gym and I come home, and oftentimes I know it's hard. This is why it's hard for the moms, right? Like my wife gets up and she gets them ready for school. So I try to take them to school. Okay. I try to make sure that I have that moment where maybe a few days a week I can drop them off at school so that she has her ability to sort of decompress a little bit in the morning. But for me and my wife, working out is a non-negotiable. The other non-negotiable for me is that I am a very present father. And I made a very conscious decision that when I had children, that I was not going to be someone who just allowed the mom to raise the kids. Like, I want to have an impact on my children. I want them to be meaningful members of society. So making sure that at some point during the day, whether it's winding down in the evening or on the weekends, that I'm spending time with my children. That's huge.
Game changer.
Total game changer. And
it's amazing.
I'm not a checked out father. Like, look, I gave up playing golf when they were born because it's a 4 or 5 hour endeavor. And now they play, so we'll get to play together. So it's coming back. But I just didn't want to spend my day on the golf course. It was important for me to be with them so that one day, hopefully, they think of me as like a really good dad.
I mean, I'm sure they do now, but you're also creating such a beautiful ripple effect by implementing these priorities, right? Because now they will carry that into their future.
Yeah.
Right.
So another non-negotiable for me, I think, and my wife, and we go through phases of being good about this and not good about it. It's hard. It's just the two of us getting away with each other.
Yes.
You know, that the daily grind of life, that the pressure that I put on myself to build what I'm trying to build in my practice and professionally, and my wife has started a business and the same for her. We need to be better about it, but we really do try to have us time. And even if that's lately, we've gone out on a couple of walks for 45 minutes. That is like a huge, huge deal for me.
Huge. It doesn't have to be always a 2-week getaway or a week getaway. It can, just having that time, like no phones, no distractions, just to connect. It's so important. The people I talk to that are in relationships, especially ones that are in healthy marriages and have children, emphasize a lot of the things that you're saying. And I love to hear it because it's really about prioritizing time and energy, right?
Yep.
We all have the same amount of hours in the day, but if we look at the people who are, nothing's perfect every second, but the ones who are really thriving, and you are one of them, you are thriving because you've also prioritized your day, you know where your energy's going, what's meaningful, what's not, and you can kind of shoo out all the stuff that doesn't matter.
Totally.
You know?
I mean, case in point, like today, I could have just not gone to the gym.
Right.
But my wife had somewhere to be by 7 a.m. So what did I do? I got up at 4 and I went to the gym at 5 because it was important to me.
On a Friday.
It was on a Friday. It was important for me to do that. And so your point about we all have the same 24 hours in a day is so huge because I was this person. I don't have time for that. I don't have enough time for this. I don't have enough time for that. Right. If you create routines in your life, then I think as an entrepreneur, your crowd is entrepreneurs, you create routines that lead to success.
That's right. And it all comes down to the habits, right?
Absolutely.
And the habits that maybe served us in our teens or 20s or even 30s, especially now. I just turned 40. I'm like, well, we got some new routines.
25.
Oh, you're good. You're very nice friend. But I've actually had to just kind of readjust some lists that I've made for myself and just, look, as we get older, I think just in aging in general, I think a beautiful thing. I'm probably one of the only women that's like, heck yeah, I'm 40 and I'm so excited.
I love it.
And I love it because it's exciting for me to realize how I'm going to better prioritize my time.
Yeah.
Because I'm so self-aware now of understanding how important our time is here, especially in losing my father last year and all these things we've talked about. But you get so excited about the time you have and you don't want to waste it with, energy vampires or things that aren't serving our greater good, right? Or just meaningless tasks, right? So I love this. Okay, those are all really good takeaways for our entrepreneurs. Let's talk about, so thriving business. You just launched this book for everybody who's watching the video. It's called The Real Beauty Bible. This is available on Amazon, and where else can people find it?
Amazon.com, Target, Barnes & Noble. Honestly, Ingram is the book distributor, and they distribute to over 39,000 online places, and it's going to be in some brick and mortar somewhere. There's a Kindle version, and there's also an audio coming.
Which is amazing. Okay, so there's been a lot going on, but what I love about you is you're a true visionary, so it's not kind of like, I wrote a book, I'm done.
Right.
You got a lot more you want to do, I know.
So much more.
So I hate asking people, and I'm not going to ask you where you see yourself in 5 years, because when people ask me, I just say, I don't know, let me just get through today, and let's see how tomorrow goes.
Well, I can answer that.
Right? But if we were to be sitting here 5 years from now, like what does the last few years look like?
World domination.
Okay.
Well, I said that earlier too. No, so
course.
I've gained a clear vision, at least, of where I think I want to go.
Yeah.
And that is, I think I'm drawing in from the CrossFit and the health and wellness journey that I've been on, that I've realized that a passion of mine is to help patients who are already coming to me who want to look and feel better, but still maybe need to lose 10 or 15 pounds and have mentioned all the struggles we talk about. I don't have time. I've done everything I can do. All the excuses that we make, because that's really what they end up being, are excuses. I've realized that my niche and where I want to head is I want to create a wellness center concept in my office where I could say, hey, listen, you want to have an amazing result, right? You're already coming to me because you want to look and feel better. Yes. You still have 20 pounds to lose before your tummy tuck. Yes. Well, why don't I since you're struggling with that structure in your life and figuring out how to do that,
Yes.
why don't I start a wellness center concept where I have the number one thing to address is the mind to body problem. So have a mental coach or a body image specialist talking about where's the disconnect in your ability to achieve what you're trying to achieve.
Yes.
Then I want to have next to that a nutritionist or a macronutrient specialist. For those of you who don't know what macronutrients are, it's carbs, fats, and proteins.
Yes, learned about that moving to Scottsdale. Had
There
never
you go.
actually heard about it before, but it's a big topic.
So
Yes.
having someone say, these are the amount of calories you need. This is how much carbs, fat, and proteins you should be taking in. Having basically an accountability partner.
Yes,
And
in
then-
all areas.
In all areas.
Yeah.
And I then want to have a meal planning service that
Yeah.
can actually deliver those meals to my office where you pick them up.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I've learned along the way is that people want a safe place to work out. A lot of people will go to the
Yes.
gym and say, well, I don't look like they look, so I just leave because I
it's
get
so
frustrated.
intimidating. Yeah.
So they need a safe place. So I want to develop this wellness concept. This is initially how it's going to start. I want to have those people in place under one roof where I can say, I'll discount your surgery if you'll engage in this process.
Yeah.
And you go through this process. When you circle back for your tummy tuck, we're going to get a slamming result, not just an okay result. Don't tell me you need me to take the skin off so that you can then work out, because that's not going to happen.
No.
Let's engage you into a lifestyle change before surgery so that, by the way, when you have your surgery, you have the lifestyle in place after surgery to maintain results for the years to come.
And I think that is such a crucial part because I know a lot of people who have had surgery over the years. And I think that people, not to make an assumption, but I would imagine generally there are a lot of people that come in assuming that surgery is going to happen and then everything's going to stay fine in the world.
Yep.
But people have a responsibility to maintain, right? It can't just be left up to, hey, you've had one operation, you're good for the rest of your life. Like you gotta co-create, right? You gotta co-balance it with the universe. I love that. I mean, the idea of having just almost like a one-stop shop for people, it's brilliant and genius and so needed, and certainly nobody here is doing it. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm nervous. I'm scared,
Oh,
but
no,
I'm
no,
excited
no.
to bring it to people.
Well, yeah, no, I get the fears. We all have fears, but so awesome, and you'll kill it, and it'll be amazing.
I appreciate it.
I mean, and we'll have you back on to talk about it.
I can't wait. I really can't wait.
Oh my gosh! So this is probably something that will happen when in the next.
Look, my goal is we are about to do some just physical changes to my current space that I rent. I'm putting together a team now to test the concept. So my first stop is I want to amass the few people that I need to do this.
Yes.
Grab a couple patients that I know would be interested.
Yep.
I'm not going to make any money on this. I want to ask these people, hey, what do you
You're
guys
doing it
need to get
properly.
paid to
Right.
do this for my patients?
Right.
And we're just going to test the concept. And as soon as we test the concept, and I know it's going to work,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to pick the right patients who are going to engage in the process.
Yeah.
And they're going to engage in it, and we're going to get a killer result. And then my next step is to actually just I want to buy a building and build it out. I'm going to build my practice. I'm going to build a little bit of a gym. I want to have a little bit of a don't get scared, CrossFit-ish type of a gym, with a rig, and I have someone who can do high intensity training. Look, here's one of the beauties about CrossFit. One of the beauties about CrossFit is you can scale any movement in a CrossFit workout. CrossFit workouts are made for the top athletes in the gym. So then you come in and you say, well, I can't back squat weight. Great, do an air squat. Squat your body weight.
Let's find an alternate.
It's scalable.
Right.
So, and it's high intensity training is something that we have proven to move the needle to metabolic syndrome, meaning diabetes, high blood pressure, all the problems that people have. So I want to create a scenario in my office under one roof where I have a trainer who can take people through those kinds of, not maybe a CrossFit workout, but tailor it to what they can do, but push them. We're not going to be nice.
Yeah.
We're going to get you outside of your comfort zone.
The only way we change.
And that's the only way you change is to be
That's
uncomfortable.
Right. We were talking about that yesterday. It's kind of, as we get older, it's like you have to get so comfortable in the uncomfortable because that's where the new habits come. And that's actually really where it sounds so cliche, but it's like in my most uncomfortable moments of my life is where I've seen the best transformation and my soul is more fueled.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So
No
it's
doubt.
like, go figure. Like we're all here to basically be uncomfortable a little bit more.
You have to.
We have to.
I mean, that's where growth occurs. If you don't push yourself to a place that doesn't feel so great. And look, deciding to eat well and get healthier and look different and feel better, it's uncomfortable to make that decision.
It is. And I know for me, I'm going to do a whole episode on this, but it took me a really long time to actually make the connection to like emotional eating that stemmed from so much in my life, like that I probably wasn't even aware of. I'm a very hypersensitive person. Like I feel overly for people. I've always been a sensitive person. And I know that, eating, not that I was sitting and eating bonbons every day, although that sounds really great, but
I love bonbons.
You're programmed growing up in a way where look, food's comfortable. It's a safe place, right? Nothing's going to happen to me. It's like but it's masking other things, right? And until I started really uncovering what that was about, now I'm when I intake food, it's a whole other experience for me.
I forget. Are you friends with Dr. Francis in
I
town?
don't know Dr. Francis.
So Morgan Francis, I'm plugging her just because I think what she's doing is amazing. She wrote her dissertation in body image, and
I think
she's
we talked about this.
and she's launching a whole a whole online course about body image. And so I've sort of encountered or talked to her about this whole concept, and whether she ends up being the person or not, what she's doing is amazing. And I think the reason I brought that up is what you're alluding to is that so many of us are so unaware of the mind to food relationship.
Yes.
And so a lot of times the reason that people can't reach that next level of the way that they want to look, it's because they haven't addressed those issues, and she does that.
There's a blockage, right?
Oh, totally.
And it's usually something emotional, and it can be fixed, I don't want to say easily or overnight, but once we're aware of it is where we can make the change, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm learning too from her. Like it's something I never really thought about, and so she comes from a perspective where I'm just getting to know her. I've only met her once, but I follow her on Instagram, and I truly believe in what her mission is, and I think that it's really something that I think my practice and my patients would benefit from.
It's such an important conversation. I know for me, like even just going more on a spiritual path the last few years, when you start to look at all the habits we have in our life and how they're intertwined, and you really see like where the triggers in them are or why they're coming up, you kind of go, oh, this is a good wake-up call.
Know.
So I actually live for it. I'm so grateful for all the healing sessions and all the healers in my world the last few years who have brought all these things to my attention, because I feel like, thank goodness I've gotten this information now, and I can create better habits moving forward, which then will translate down to my children one day, right? So we all have the power to, repivot all these habits in our families or things that we want to change, and to be able to pass those healthier habits down from a mindset perspective to our children is gold to me. I think that is, talk about finding purpose. I mean, I know I had to go through a lot of things I had to go through before I have a family.
Oh, yeah.
I get it now. I get it. So going back to purpose, I want to find out from you, because I know we could sit here and talk for hours, but we do have
to. And I will.
We do have a show that we have to close out eventually. But who in your life do you think, like you say, probably a handful of people, but really living purposeful life, like friends, family, colleagues, people in your world from childhood, from now, like that you're like, God, that person's on their purpose, and I like that.
I'm going to say my wife. I know that's the easy answer, but
that's an amazing answer.
But here's the explanation behind that.
I love it.
My wife, Alexis, God, I love her. She's an amazing person. She really is. She's an unbelievable mother, and she's a great partner. And so the reason that I say that is for this. So she started her journey out in life as a dental hygienist, and her father's a dentist. And so I think she's realized over the past many years she doesn't practice dental hygiene anymore. She stopped when the boys were born. And I think she realized that she always had a desire and a pull to do something else. She didn't know what it was, but it was something else. And I've watched her over the past 6 or 7 years struggle with wanting to be there and raising the boys. Yes. I have twins who are 9.
Yeah.
Wanting to be there for the boys because they need someone to be around.
Yes.
And she wants to be around for them, and then struggling with, but I also have more purpose in life than just being a mom. And so what's been beautiful to watch in her over the past couple of years is she started a little business out of the house last year called Sweet Life by Lex. Yeah. And I'm seeing her change her mindset. And together, this is really cool. Together, we're starting to read entrepreneurial books that sort of engage in the mindset.
Yes.
And we're doing this thing kind of together. But I will say, like, she's one of the people that I look to and admire, because I think she's taking charge of her life, and she's starting to find happiness and purpose in the things that she's doing outside of being a mom and outside of being what she thought was going to be a dental hygienist for the rest of her life, and realizing, no, I have so much more that I want to do. So
what I love about what you just shared is that you're both also creating space for each other to flourish and fulfill all the things you each want to, which to me is, manifested every day. Like that to me, that's true partnership, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's one thing that Alexis and I talk about all the time. Do we have a perfect marriage? No,
but
nobody does. We argue about little things and we get in tiffs. They're never little things, never major arguments. But we have issues just like everybody else. But what I will say that we have done right and did right from day one, we both agree we have created a foundation of how we're going to raise our children, how we respect other people in this world, how we treat other people in this world, how we're going to self-love ourselves to give ourselves the chance to be the most successful people. We've built that foundation so that when we do have little arguments and fights and all the silly things that come up in a relationship, they're just speed bumps. We have the foundation. The house is not falling down because we have like a core about us that we both agree on. And that's so important.
It's everything.
It is.
It's everything. I admire that so much. I can't wait to meet her. I love that you.
She adores you.
Oh, I appreciate that. But I love that you celebrate her that way. It is amazing, and I love that.
I probably don't say it to her enough.
Oh, well, she can listen to this on repeat. We just keep hitting replay. So before we wrap up, I want to bring up one topic that I know we talked about when I met. And the reason I want to bring it up is because so many of our listeners and entrepreneurs are on Instagram.
Yes.
And there's a lot of talk, especially coming with regard to breast implants. And we're seeing a lot of women remove them.
Yes.
And some women are having better health experiences once they're removed and all these things. And I think while we're here, because I think we have a captive audience that follows a lot of those people and they're watching that, I'd love to get your just take on that. And I'm sure we could talk about it for 2 hours, but generally, like, just your overall thoughts as to that movement that's going on.
Yeah. So what you're alluding to, and I actually put this in my book literally the night before the final manuscript was due. It's been kind of a topic that a lot of plastic surgeons shy away from, and it's breast implant illness. There's a couple of things going on right now, but that's one of the big reasons why a lot of women are taking their implants out. And I want to sort of shed light to your listeners on what we're talking about.
Yes.
Is it a diagnosis that we have medically now in journals? No, it's not a diagnosis. But what's happening is there are a lot of women who have started to, either a couple of years or several years later after having implants, and some immediately, started to have the brain fog, malaise, joint pain, thyroid issues, a lot of things that sound very autoimmune. And so after going through a full medical workup and not really being able to come up with anything else that would point to why they're all of a sudden having all these problems, a lot of women are pointing to their implants. And so there's been this huge movement of removing implants.
Yeah.
And so I want to be clear about my position on all of this. I, as a scientist and as a physician, would be stupid to say that it's not possible that implants are making some people sick. Possible. I do truly believe that there could be a subset of patients, maybe they're autoimmune sensitive, that are having problems with their implants. And maybe it's creating this chronic inflammatory thing where they are having these problems. A lot of them are taking them out and not getting better.
Right.
A lot of them are taking them out and getting better.
Right.
What I tell and I coach my patients about in the clinic is that there is an estimated about 35 million women with implants. And there's a lot of women. And there's 80,000, 100,000, however many that feel that they're making them sick. What I tell my patients is we don't have a defined medical diagnosis. We do have a lot of people that say that they're being ill from their implants. We do not have a test. We don't have a test that can tell me who is potentially at risk.
Right.
And so for that reason, I tell them there's 35 million people who are living with them just fine.
Yes.
There are a group of people who are not doing well and think it's from their implants. The odds are in your favor. All I can do is full disclosure tell you this is sort of what's going on. If we had something that I could say, I am making people sick, my wife has implants. I would never do something to my wife that's going to knowingly make her sick. So there's a group of people out there that are so sadistically on the mission that we as plastic surgeons are poisoning people and doing it for the money.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but they couldn't be further from the truth. I, as much as them, want to figure out, are implants making people sick?
Right.
But I still do it for breast cancer reconstruction. I still do breast augmentations for patients who want them, with the understanding that this is the stuff that's going on. So a lot of plastic surgeons shun women out of the office and laugh at them, and I am so not that guy.
No.
So I'm the guy that says, look, I can meet you halfway and say that I think there could be a group of people that are having problems.
Sure.
But I need you to meet me halfway and say that all surgeons aren't poisoning people, and they're not doing things intentionally to people for money.
That's
not
right.
everyone is that way.
That's right. And I also, until we have the concrete facts, which a lot of people don't, of course, I think a lot of people that are showing the images on Instagram and they're doing it, maybe they are feeling better, like you said. And so they feel like they have a platform to share, like, hey, this has helped me feel better. But I think they're projecting it in a way where they're almost saying to everybody, like, if you got them, you should do this too,
Exactly.
as opposed to letting everybody make up their own decision.
Right. And why would you tell someone who's doing great, go have a risky operation, right? Surgery has risk,
Right.
no matter how minimal or how big the surgery is.
That's right.
Surgery has risk. So now you're trying to talk someone into who's doing just fine and feels fine. Go put yourself at risk and have a surgery and have them removed. And I just, like, I don't see that. That doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm seeing it a lot on social media. And again, like, God bless, everybody can do as they choose. But I agree with you that I don't think there's enough concrete facts for the finger pointing, right?
And I will say, we're working on it, okay?
Yeah.
So another thing for the listeners to understand is that, look, the American Society of Plastic Surgery and the American Aesthetic Society, we're not saying this isn't happening or it couldn't be happening. In fact, now we're actually working with the FDA. We have task forces in place where we're sending our representatives to work with the FDA to figure out, is there something to this? Because this, by the way, this happened with Dow Corning way back when the first implants came out, way back early on in the 70s or whatever. They went out of business because all these women were saying that they were getting autoimmune diseases. They never proved it. We tried to, but I think it's coming full circle. So I do believe it is something.
There's steps being taken.
Yeah, there's steps being taken.
Yeah.
Like, we're not ignoring it. We're working. Look, most of us are really good people and we want good outcomes. We want the best for you. So we're trying to figure it out. I think we're trying to figure out if there's something really there.
I love that. I love everything the way that you just talked about that too. It's just important for people to hear both sides.
Yeah, and it's important. I'm not scared to talk about it. I mean, I don't think the way I feel about it is wrong.
Not at all. And I think it's important to talk about because I'm not sure enough people, especially in the social sphere, are hearing it from the doctors directly. So I appreciate that. So, okay, well, we've got a new book.
We do.
We can find out more information about Dr. Brown via his website.
Yes.
Which is?
Yep. So my corporate website is www.richardjbrownmd.com.
And then on Instagram, you are?
So my Instagram is at DR for doctor. You guys know DR is short for doctor. So it's at DR Richard J. Brown.
Actual, like the Doc Brown, like any Back to the Future fans?
That's right.
Made that connection the other day.
I had this conversation with someone else the other day. I will say this. This is hugely important to me since we're talking about social media.
Yeah.
A lot of you guys may not know that plastic surgery gets shadow banned on Instagram. So that means that they see our stuff as censored content and they're not allowing us to organically have people see it to follow us. So the only way that I get followers is for you guys who are listening to go click the button to follow me. And I will tell you, I'm not trying to sell you anything on my Instagram. I run my Instagram. I put a lot of authentic content out. I put family stuff. I put some of the stuff we've talked about, life and motivation and how I got to become where I am. I put surgeries on there. You don't have to go watch my surgeries, but I do put before and afters. And the only way for me to get people to follow me is through these modalities where people just go click and follow.
Yeah, they have to actually click the follow button.
Because you mean I get to see my awesomeness that I'm trying to deliver
yeah,
you.
and it is authentic. And so everybody listening, go follow.
Yep.
They can buy the book, find you through your website, and also anybody here in town, you are based in North Scottsdale.
Yeah, so my main practice right now is off of just north of Shea on Scottsdale and Shea. I also service the West Valley, which I've been doing for 10 years. I've been going out to Sun City area.
Yeah.
And I have an office out there that I see patients on Thursdays.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so much goodness.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, this is what happens every time I have a guest. I'm like, we're running out of time, but there's so much more to talk about.
Well,
but
can I just say one thing?
Yes,
Your
please.
energy is infectious, and I appreciate you
thank
for
you.
what you do.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that you're one of the people that's helping me kind of deliver the mission that I'm on to the Arizona area. It's
Thank
really
you.
important to me, so thank you for being you.
That is so nice. Well, I received that. I appreciate you. Divinely intersection, relationships being formulated. I love that. But we are obviously here to talk about all things purpose, and I appreciate you just tuning in every week and listening. If anything resonated with you, you can feel free to leave a review if you'd like. So grateful for any of you that do, and share with your friends, colleagues. A lot of great tips and insight information today. And wishing you guys all a purposeful day. If you want to connect with me, you can find me at Nicole Myden on Instagram. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.